Hello, I'm using a different lens to usual today, so I may have to project my voice because my microphone is a little bit further away, so don't mind me if I sound a little bit different when I have my projection voice on. I wanted to just sit and have a chat with this video because I thought it's probably the easiest way for me to share these kind of tips and systems with you. I want to share with you all the ways that I organize my life. I'm going to talk about personal and then also business as well. And I would like to say a huge thank you to my website host Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Now, I always tend to have a lot going on. Now, not quite as much as I used to have. I feel like I used to get carried away, and I still, if I didn't build the self-control, I would still get carried away now because I love having projects, I love having things to work on, I like keeping busy. I like how that makes me feel mentally, but I tend to overdo it, and I know a lot of you guys would be similar in that regard, is that you just have so much that you want to do that you just pack a bit too much. So thankfully I have learned where my limits are, but I am still reasonably busy. I try to upload a YouTube video every single week. I have clients that I am coaching for both nutrition and personal training, and a bunch of other little projects and things that I'm chipping away at. So I had to learn how to efficiently manage my time. And I didn't start doing all of these things at once. Some of these habits I started years and years ago. Some of them are a little bit newer, but I thought I would just sort of go through the main ones that I feel hold my life together, so that hopefully you can come away with a little bit of inspiration as to how you might like to try and structure things. And of course, what works for me might not work for you, might not work for the next person. So I find just trial and error with this sort of thing and find a way that feels the most seamless for you. It shouldn't feel like a huge chore to keep yourself organized. It should flow relatively easily. Okay, before we get started, I have a little question because I've been on both. So I wanted to ask, do you prefer to keep yourself organized and do planning digitally or physically? Are you a journal person, or are you a digital calendar person? So this first one I wanted to talk about is not exactly a tool, it's more just a process, and that's just setting up systems for yourself. And what I mean by systems is just ways that you can go on autopilot, especially if you have a kind of busy day. So I don't do a morning routine every single morning of my life, but I have a morning routine that exists for days that I need a morning routine. So if I know, okay, I have to start work by 9 a.m. this day, or I have to start work by 8 a.m. this day, I know that if I get up at a certain time, I will run through the same things in the same pattern without having to think about it. And I think that's where the biggest thing comes from, is taking out some of those conscious decisions that we have to make so that we can reduce decision fatigue and we can use that mental energy on what's actually important. The next one that I want to talk about is my pride and joy, aka the boss of my life, my Google Calendar. So for a few years I was using just a bullet journal, just written out, but since a lot of my work needed to become adaptable, so for example, when I work with my training clients, we do video calls so that I can speak to them face to face. I can see how they're actually going, and that's one of the highlights of my week, honestly, because I love being able to chat with them, help them work through setbacks that are in their way, and actually sort of diving deep into the mindset behind why they're making the choices that they're making when it comes to their exercise and their health and their fitness. But sometimes things pop up and people need to reschedule calls. So, when that happens, they'll reschedule it. My calendar's going to automatically shuffle that for me. And of course it syncs up across all of my devices. Something I started doing a few years ago with it is time blocking. You may or may not, depending how long you've been around here for, I did a blog post all about time blocking and how I like to do it. Now, the basic structure of that is still the same. Yours may look a little bit different if you're going into a workplace or whatever it is, but for me, I have to structure in my own breaks and my own, when I finish for the day. If you're a freelancer, you probably totally relate to that. But I feel that this is important for me as well, because then I'm actually booking in my workouts for myself, or I book in okay, I want to do a meal prep that night, or I'm going to go out and see my friends on that day, whatever it is, because I know if I book it in, I'm going to treat it as a priority. So when I am setting up my time blocking, I usually like to do this 1 to 2 weeks in advance, depending on how much I know of what's happening. And now I also sync mine up to my Asana as well. I'll tell you about Asana in a minute. But the reason that I use Google Calendar as like my base calendar is because I can also put my reminders in there and I can toggle things on and off. So for example, if I'm looking at it and I don't want to be distracted by other things, I can turn off single Asana calendars so that I'm just viewing purely my Google Calendar. Okay, now we are dipping more into the work side of things here, but I will go back to more like personal life stuff a little bit further on. If the work stuff doesn't interest you, I'll put a timestamp on here and you can just skip to the personal life stuff. So Asana is like the brains behind the social media side of my business. I have a content calendar set up in there. I have a, like a brain dump set up in there. I have all different kinds of things in there. You can set different boards up in different ways, so you can have them in a calendar view or in a list view or in like columns or whatever it is that you feel is going to work for you. Google Sheets, totally underrated. I do have the Microsoft Suite on my computer, but I really like Google Sheets because then I can access it from my phone, I can access it from my iPad, whatever I need. If you see my Instagram, on my Instagram stories, sometimes when I share a meal, I'll also share the macros behind that and I'll upload what just looks like a little table. That's my Excel sheet from where I've already planned out my meals. I also use it in my work because I need to keep track of, what phase people are up to in different training programs. So all my clients have access to an app where they can go in and they can just like do their training. But on my end, I also need to keep myself organized with it because I'm working with multiple people. I can't just go off the app side of things. And I do run permanent coaching, but then I also have a 12-week program. And so with the 12-week program, I need to keep track of who's up to what week, so I know where we're at. Because not only do I like to be organized in my life, but I like to organize other people's lives as well, clearly. I also use Google Sheets for doing like my budgeting and planning. I do have an accounting software called Xero, which I guess I'll briefly mention that here as well. But that's how I like to keep track of invoices and business banking and all of that kind of thing. But I still do like to set up a little template for myself and guidelines, whether that's targets for income or whether that's like keeping track of expenses and that kind of thing. Google Sheets is what I will use for that. Last one for the business side of things is Squarespace. So I use Squarespace to host both of my blogs. So I have a personal journal and then I have my other website which is more tailored to my health and fitness content, and that's called Eat, Run, Lift. So I use Squarespace to host both of those, and I thought because it is a tool that I do use to organize myself, I'll just talk about them now and I will tell you guys about them. So I've been using Squarespace for about 6 years now to host my Eat, Run, Lift website. Before that I was using another host, but I wasn't happy with it because it was clunky, it was complicated. When things start expanding, you don't want to be weighing yourself down doing admin tasks or like fixing little errors and issues and things. That's why I really enjoy Squarespace. Built into the back end, I've got my e-commerce. They also have email client built in, so if you have a mailing list or a newsletter, you can talk to people directly and set that up through your Squarespace website, as well as setting up your custom email address and everything like that. So it looks like sleek and on brand and you're not using a generic email. So the main reason aside from e-commerce that I use them is also the blogging capabilities, because they have extremely good options for your SEO. You can duplicate posts so that you can keep formatting identical, which is something that is really important to me when it comes to like recipe posts and things. I want people to know a clear cut familiar format when they're viewing my recipes. On top of that, they're going to be saving you a lot of time on the design side of things. So if you wanted to bring in a designer who can do like custom CSS and tweak things exactly how you want them, you can do that, but you don't have to, because you can choose from these gorgeous templates and just drag and drop, fill it in with your branding, your images, and how you want to present yourself to the world. So I did want to say thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. I love being able to work with a brand that I have used for so long. Like, I feel so lucky to be able to work with them. And if you guys are looking for a place to put your website, whether that's a portfolio or whether it's a blog or whether it's, one of my friends actually did this and this is brilliant. So he works in digital marketing. His resume is just a website. It's just a single page website with his whole CV on it, which I think is great. Or maybe you want to set up an online store, so you can check out Squarespace. I do have a little discount code for you, but you don't even have to pay straight away. You can jump on, test it out, do a trial, see how you like it, and then when you're ready to put it live, jump on over to that URL which I've written on the screen or included in the description box, and that will take 10% off your first purchase. Now let's move a little more into the personal life side of things and how I like to keep that flowing relatively well without having to stress out. And I feel like so many of you are just going to roll your eyes at this one when I say it, because you already know it's meal prepping. So I don't meal prep every single meal for every single day for every single week, but I either like to prep, you know, for 3 days in advance, or I'll just prep a bunch of stuff and leave it in the fridge or the freezer so I can grab it and go to it when I need it. And because I've planned out the meals for myself, it makes it really, really easy for me to see like what ingredients I need to have on hand and what I want to be making. And that way, you know, if I do want to do a meal prep, I know exactly what I need to put together. This also ties into the next thing I wanted to mention, which is just a little shopping app. Like it's nothing major. It doesn't like make or break my experience with being organized, but it's called Bring. And it's an app that I use on my iPhone. It also connects to your Apple Watch as well. So, I mean, you know how your Apple Watch does like the Apple Pay and stuff? Like sometimes if I go to the shop, I just don't even take my phone because I don't want to be on my phone all the time. I'll just wear my Apple Watch and I can view the whole shopping list on there as well. The last one that I wanted to mention, by the way, I've been speaking for so long that my camera like timed itself out and switched off and I had to start it again. So that's where I'm at with this video. I could just talk about this stuff for days. The reason I left this to the end is because it could sit in either the business or personal category. Like even if I wasn't doing the kind of business stuff that I'm doing, I would still use this app. It's an email client called Spark. So I've tried a few different email clients over the years. There was one that I loved years ago and I can't remember the name now, but they shut it down, which was super annoying. But Spark's been really good to me for the last year or so. So I have a few different emails, obviously, because I've got like the Eat, Run, Lift stuff. Then we have like a customer service email, which I'm not the one who responds to the emails, but I like to just see them anyway because I'm a control freak. I just want to see what's going on. Now, with your Spark email, you can either just view them all in like one big dump email list of everything, or they have a thing called Smart Inbox, which will automatically filter things for you and put them under different categories. You can also toggle on and off different email addresses. And a feature that I love is the ability to snooze an email. That actually made me just realize another thing that I need to talk to you guys about. So this is not the last one. There'll be one more after this, just one, I promise. But yeah, you can snooze an email so that, you know, let's say you read something and you're like, I really need to get to that and I don't want to forget it. You can snooze it so it appears back in your inbox at a certain time. And like I was gonna say, this reminded me because a function that I set up, the last thing I'm gonna mention, I promise I'll let you guys go after this, is Zapier. So Zapier, you can create these things called zaps between different applications and web tools and whatever it is that you use. I have a zap set up where if I star an email or like flag it as important, there's a board on my Asana called To Be Actioned. So myself and Haley, my VA, both have access to this board. So if I flag an email as important, it pops itself into that part of my Asana board so she can see who the email is from, who she needs to contact, and like a little summary of the email so that she can go and find it and action that. But that's what reminded me to mention Zapier, because I have that set up to do a few little like administrative tasks just to give me back extra little bits of time. And I have it set up for a few other little like fiddly tasks that I was doing before, so that it just takes some of the administration work off what I need to do, because they're very simple tasks that follow a very set structure and I don't need to be creative with them. It's just things that need to happen in a specific order. So I use Zapier to action those for me. But yes, that's a work one and it's down here with the non-work stuff. So I apologize, but I totally forgot about it because it just runs itself. I don't have to do anything. So feel free to take from that what you will. I feel like I talked about a lot for a long time, but I hope that gives you more insight into like what I use to help structure not only my personal life, but also the business side of things as well. Because I think especially like when I first started in the freelance kind of thing, I had no idea how to structure things up in a way that flowed, in a way that worked for me and that felt like easy and almost flawless in execution, because I didn't have to put so much mental energy towards it. Because that's the thing, like with organization, you don't want to be spending all of your time planning. I've seen people make that mistake. Don't waste all your time planning. Don't waste all your energy planning. You need to be executing. You need to be doing what you're good at. So find ways to make things repeat or action themselves, or maybe you just get joy out of like doing a planner diary page, but so absolutely go for that. But I'm talking about like if you're trying to be super efficient with your time and you don't want to be bogged down by like the little details and the little tasks. If you want more insight into my weird brain, feel free to come and join me on Instagram. My username's just @RachelAust. If you have any specific questions, leave them in the comments below and I'll try and get back to as many as I can to answer them for you. But it's been lovely having you here. Thank you for joining me if you're still around all the way to the end of the video. And I hope you're well. I hope you're taking the time to look after yourself. I'll either catch you over on my Instagram or we'll catch up in my next video. Bye!